Before sharing this tale, it's crucial you comprehend a point. I'm not an aggressive individual. Throughout my life, I've never physically harmed another person, never shouted at my wife, never broken dishes or hit walls in anger. Unlike some men who react impulsively to betrayal, I don't fit that mold. Instead, I respond. There's a distinction between reaction and response, a lesson many people never grasp. A reaction is swift, emotional, and often self-damaging. Response is thoughtful, patient, and precise. Upon discovering my wife was unfaithful with another man, I didn't react impulsively. Instead, I waited, observed, and reacted in a way they wouldn't anticipate. My name is Silas, aged 41. I am self-made, amassing wealth through commercial real estate and property management. I own multiple rental properties, a modest tract of land, and the house I shared with my wife Camilla for 11 years. To an outsider, we represented the epitome of success. A beautiful home in an upscale neighborhood. A refurbished carriage house on our land serving as a guest house. 2 high-end automobiles parked in the driveway. Gatherings with intriguing individuals for dinner. While the outside appeared harmonious, a silent deterioration was taking place within our marriage. I crossed paths with Camilla when I was 29 and she was 26. She worked as a marketing coordinator for a luxury hotel chain at that time. Her self-assurance, ambition, and belief in her future greatness caught my attention. It turned out, however, the apparent confidence hid something quite different. Camilla did not possess faith in her abilities to achieve greatness. She felt entitled to it. For the initial 5 years of our marriage, this difference was unimportant. I was focusing on building my business, while she pursued career advancement. We were both engrossed in our respective endeavors, ignoring the underlying incongruity at the heart of our relationship. However, as my prosperity expanded and her career stagnated, a change occurred. Camilla grew envious of my accomplishments. She would subtly suggest that luck played a significant role. The market favored me, and with the right timing, anyone could have replicated my success. I chose to disregard these remarks. I convinced myself that marriage demanded forbearance. People often spoke thoughtlessly when grappling with their own shortcomings. Love entails accepting another's imperfections. However, I was mistaken. 3 years ago, Camilla started devoting more time to professional networking events, claiming she was fostering connections in search of her next opportunity. I bolstered her, I spurred her on. Unbeknownst to me, the chance she was pursuing held no connection to her profession. The name Donovan resonated with me at a dinner party we hosted for some of Camilla's coworkers. She casually brought him up, describing him as an innovative entrepreneur working on a technological platform. Her tone when mentioning his name held a sentiment I hadn't heard in years from her. Warmth filled her voice that was absent during our conversations. I did not challenge her or probe for answers. Instead, I became vigilant. Over the ensuing months, I observed recurring behaviors. Camilla received late-night text messages and wore a smile on her face when glancing at her phone that she had never shown me. She increased her gym visits, purchased new outfits, and took greater care with her appearance, all telltale signs that those who have been betrayed would recognize promptly. Yet I remained patient, collecting information. 6 months prior to the recounted incidents, I sought clarity on the situation at hand before taking any action. My suspicions were confirmed when I installed a security system on our property for insurance purposes. One camera in particular captured our driveway and guest house entrance. I had nearly forgotten about it until I noticed Camilla's car entering our driveway at 2 p.m., contrary to her stated plans of working downtown. A man unfamiliar to me stepped out from the passenger side. He was tall with dark hair, dressed in expensive casual attire that signaled wealth without actually being wealthy. Camilla led him to the guest house where they remained for 3 hours. Upon examining the footage that evening and again the next morning, a chill settled within me, but it wasn't anger, it was clarity. My marriage was beyond salvageable. The only uncertainty was its termination method. The sole question left unanswered was how it would conclude. For several weeks, I delved into the background of Donovan, a task that proved relatively effortless due to his transparent social media persona. Labeled a serial entrepreneur, his LinkedIn profile exposed a history of collapsed ventures and ambiguous consulting positions. Driving a leased BMW beyond his means, he flaunted images of extravagant eateries and luxury airport lounges. However, his financial status was teetering on the edge of precarity. In essence, Donovan represented the ideal man to target both a married woman and her wealth. He viewed Camilla as the key to a lifestyle unattainable independently. Simultaneously, Camilla, with her astute judgment, perceived Donovan as confirmation that she could still entice a younger, more alluring suitor than her monotonous, prosperous spouse. On that fateful Thursday in early September, they were destined for each other, yet I had no intention of making it easy for them. Upon arriving home ahead of schedule from a meeting, I found a moving truck parked in front of the guest house and saw Donovan transporting boxes inside with Camilla standing at the doorway, laughing and touching him affectionately, an act that twisted my stomach. For a full minute, I watched them oblivious to my presence, secure in their belief that they had outsmarted me by keeping their tryst at the office. Instead of storming out and confronting them on the spot, I suppressed my emotions and let reason guide my actions. Most men might have given Camilla exactly what she sought: a heated argument, accusations, and drama to validate her infidelity. I'm not like most men. I took a deep breath, assumed an air of casual curiosity, and approached them with my hands tucked away in my pockets and a friendly smile on my face. It was Camilla who spotted me first, her expression swiftly shifting from surprise to calculated scheming in the blink of an eye. She had already devised the stories she would tell me, the lies she would spin. "Silas," she greeted me, introducing Donovan. He claimed to be a consultant and was working on a startup, requiring a peaceful environment to focus. Camilla had agreed to let him rent the guest house for a few months. Donovan, with his overbearing self-assurance, met my gaze, offered a handshake that spoke of dominance, and said he'd heard much about me. I accepted his offer, hiding my displeasure, feigning welcome. Over dinner, Camilla elaborated on the arrangement, insisting it was purely business. Donovan would pay a reasonable rent, stay for 3 months to secure funding for his startup, and we could use the additional income. She brushed aside my concerns about having a stranger on our property with growing irritation, accusing me of bureaucracy and insecurity. After all, she assured me, Donovan was a professional and there was nothing to worry about. I let her speak, letting her weave her web of lies. When she had finished, I broached the topic of a lease agreement, necessary for insurance purposes. She scoffed at my precautions but agreed, underestimating the importance of that piece of paper. I spent a week drafting the lease, disguising a trap within its standard clauses. Clause 14, titled Holdover Liquidation Provision, stated that upon the expiration of the 90-day lease term, if the tenant had not vacated the premises at least 48 hours prior to the end date, the lease would automatically convert into a binding purchase agreement for the property at double its market value. Alternatively, the tenant could pay a liquidation fee of $75,000 immediately upon triggering the clause. The language was technical, but the consequences were dire, and neither Camilla nor Donovan paid it enough attention to comprehend what they were signing. When I presented the lease to Donovan, I feigned apology, explaining that my lawyer insisted on the document for liability purposes. I pointed out the sections about rent and maintenance, glossing over the rest. Donovan signed without hesitation, too absorbed in wooing Camilla with his charm to pay attention to the fine print. Camilla watched, smirking, thinking she had won, not realizing that she was playing right into my hands. That night, after Donovan settled into the guest house and Camilla retired to bed, I reviewed the signed document, setting the stage for my victory. The next 90 days were a test of my patience as I observed Donovan treating the guest house as his personal domain, encroaching on my space and time, and mocking me in words and actions. Despite this, I remained silent, observing and waiting. Unbeknownst to them, the security cameras I had installed years ago were still recording their every move, providing me with ample evidence of their disrespect and betrayal. Every evening, I reviewed the footage from the day, listening to them belittle me, calling me a fool and a pushover. They were right in part. I was afraid of conflict, but not because I lacked courage. I was afraid because I knew that one day my patience would run out. 45 days in, I strove to uphold an image, but not the one they assumed. On day 45, I presented them with a bottle of wine, expressing my delight over Donovan's work progress, inquiring courteously about his startup endeavors, all while flawlessly embodying the part of the seemingly unaware spouse. On day 60, I subtly mentioned that the 90 days were nearing an end, casually inquiring if Donovan had found a new place yet. He chuckled and shared he was still searching, prompting Camilla to give me a warning look. I heeded her message and let the matter rest. On day 75, I scrutinized Clause 14 once more. I verified with my lawyer that it held legal validity and ensured the guest house was correctly registered as a separate LLC, meaning any contracts tied to that property fell under commercial regulations rather than residential lease terms. 88th day, Camilla approached me with a proposition. She wished to prolong the lease. Donovan's funds hadn't arrived yet, hence he required more time. She presented it as a fiscal decision. The rental income was beneficial. There was no need to hasten him out. I agreed we could postpone the discussion till next week. Her acceptance was immediate. She had become so accustomed to my acquiescence that she failed to perceive the noose tightening around her. The subsequent day passed uneventfully. I went to work, returned home, dined with Camilla, retired early, and set my alarm for midnight. At 11:58 p.m., I stood by my bedroom window observing the guest house. The lights were on. Donovan was still indoors. He wasn't packing or preparing to vacate. Instead, he remained precisely where I desired him to be. My phone buzzed at 12:00 a.m. with a reminder from my calendar. 14th clause of lease expiration activated. I slept more soundly than I had in years. The next day, I didn't visit Donovan at the guest house, nor confronted him personally. Instead, I contacted the county sheriff's office for help in serving legal documents. By 9:15 a.m., a deputy arrived at my property with an envelope containing a lawsuit seeking $75,000. From my living room window, I watched as the deputy knocked on the guest house door. Donovan appeared in his bathrobe, visibly bewildered and drowsy, received the envelope from the deputy. His face showed a sequence of emotions: confusion, disbelief, rage, and then fear. He marched across the lawn towards the main house. I intercepted him before he could knock, asking angrily what this was, brandishing the papers in front of me. "This is preposterous. You can't proceed like this. I told you composedly, and I have enforced it. You violated a contract by staying beyond its term, activating the liquidation clause, which now requires you to pay $75,000. You're accusing me of fraud? I will seek legal counsel. I will sue you. I advise you to consult a lawyer. They will clarify that your signed contract is legally binding. The guest house is categorized as commercial property under a distinct LLC. You engaged in a commercial agreement. The conditions are enforceable." Donovan's face turned red. He stammered about Camilla, asserting she told him the contract was trivial, claiming none of this was just. I met his gaze with the same composed expression I had held for 90 days. "Perhaps you should address that with Camilla," I said as I closed the door on him. "She was the one who persuaded you to sign without reviewing," I implied. 2 hours later, I encountered Camilla in my office, her face marked by tears, accusing me of wrongdoing. I confessed to knowing about her affair since its inception. I explained that the lease wasn't just about rent or insurance. It was about accountability, about consequences. She labeled me as cruel, heartless, and every other insult she could muster, her voice escalating to a shout. I allowed her to vent. Subsequently, I presented her with divorce papers I had prepared 3 weeks prior. As expected, the events that followed were according to plan. Faced with an enforceable debt he couldn't repay, Donovan tried to challenge the lawsuit. His lawyer examined the contract and advised him he had no defense. The agreement was explicit, the terms were precise, he had voluntarily signed it, the debt was legitimate. Within 2 months, a judgment was made against him. In 90 days, his cherished BMW was taken to cover a portion of the debt. The remaining amount would be deducted from his wages for years, if he managed to secure consistent employment. Camilla didn't fare well either. During the divorce process, my lawyer presented proof that she had instigated Donovan to sign the lease without thoroughly reading it. She orchestrated the deal that led to his financial downfall. Her actions revealed a violation of her fiduciary duty towards our marital estate. The judge showed no mercy towards her alimony claims. 6 months after I filed the papers, my divorce was finalized. Camilla received a significantly smaller settlement than anticipated. Donovan was still struggling to get out of the financial predicament he had willingly gotten into, and I finally gained independence. I transformed the guest house into a home fitness center. Each day, I exercise in the very room where Donovan used to sleep, a place that echoed with their laughter at my expense, a sanctuary of their deceit. The reconstruction was costly, but it didn't faze me. In a sense, Donovan footed the bill. Occasionally, people query if I harbor remorse for my actions. They ponder if my reaction was excessively severe, meticulously planned, devoid of warmth. They wonder if I contemplated addressing Camilla directly and ending the marriage as an ordinary person might. I comprehend why they pose such questions. After all, what I did was far from ordinary. It wasn't the kind of response most would adopt. Yet I am not like most people. I hold that actions have repercussions. I trust that those who breach trust should face retribution. I am convinced that persistence and strategy will outwit passion and impulse every time. Camilla and Donovan believed they were superior to me in cunning. They misjudged my composed attitude as a sign of weakness, mistook my patience for passivity, and assumed my silence indicated submission. They erred. I remained silent not because I lacked words, but because I was biding my time, waiting for the opportune moment, waiting for their trap to be set, waiting for them to comprehend that the individual they had disregarded as weak-minded was the one calling the shots all along. That instant occurred at midnight on day 90, and every second of patience proved worthwhile.